"Don't move!" A woman's voice cracks through the freezing night. Snow swirls around her, clinging to her torn coat as she grips a broken arrow, her hands shaking. Across the fire, a man stands silhouetted, his face hidden in shadow, only his eyes catching the flames. She stares at him, heart pounding, unsure if he's friend or foe. He steps closer, and she whispers, "Why are you here?" No answer, just the howl of the wind. In a winter that buries everything, two strangers collide, one fleeing death, the other hiding pain. Can they trust each other to survive, or will the cold claim them both? Imagine a world where winter holds the earth in a fist of ice. Montana, 1870s. Snow falls in heavy sheets, piling deep on the ground, turning the forests into a maze of white and shadow. Pines stand tall, their branches bowing under the weight, whispering secrets as the wind cuts through them. This is no gentle season. It's a brutal one, where breath freezes in your throat and the cold hunts like a living thing. Out here, settlers and native tribes share the land, but it's an uneasy peace. Old battles scar the memory, and new ones simmer in the glances between strangers. Trust is a rare coin, spent only when there's no other choice. At the center of this frozen story is Lila Harper, a woman carved by loss. She's a settler, born in England long ago. Her accent faded, but her stubbornness sharp. Her dark hair is tangled, tucked under a wool scarf that's seen better days. Her eyes, gray as storm clouds, carry a fire that refuses to die. Lila's husband, Thomas, was her anchor. They built a life in a small cabin, far from the clamor of towns where the nearest neighbor was a day's ride away. Thomas worked the mines, dreaming of silver, while Lila tamed the land. She chopped firewood, planted potatoes, stitched quilts from scraps. Her hands are rough, her fingers scarred from years of labor. They were happy in their quiet way until a cave-in stole Thomas from her. The news came on a spring morning, and Lila buried him under a cottonwood tree, marking the grave with a stone she carved herself. Now, 6 months later, she's alone, holding the cabin together with sheer will. Lila isn't one to break. She wakes at dawn, splits logs, checks traps for rabbits. Grief sits heavy, but she pushes it down, locking it behind her work. The cabin smells of pine and earth, its walls sturdy, its hearth warm. She keeps Thomas's old rifle by the door, not for fear, but for foxes and wolves. Life is hard, but it's hers. She plans to keep it that way, to prove she doesn't need anyone. But the world has other plans. Enter Kael, her cousin, a man with a heart as cold as the snow outside. Kael's no native, just a settler with a hunger for more than he deserves. He's tall, lean, with a face that might have been handsome if greed hadn't twisted it. His coat is patched, his boots scuffed, but his eyes gleam with cunning. Kael leads a band of outlaws, men who drift like smoke, stealing what they can and vanishing. They're not tied to any tribe, but Kael's clever. He knows how to stir trouble, whispering lies that pit settlers against natives, fanning flames for his own gain. To him, the land is a game, and he plays to win. Kael rides to Lila's cabin on a morning when the sky is gray as iron. His men, 5 of them, follow close, their horses snorting clouds of steam. Pipe smoke curls from their lips, and their laughter is sharp, like breaking glass. Lila hears them coming, the crunch of hooves on snow. She steps outside, her breath visible, her hand resting on the knife at her belt. Kael dismounts, his smile thin. He calls her cousin, but there's no warmth in it. He says the cabin, the land, it's his by right. Thomas is gone, and a woman alone can't hold it. He leans close, his voice low, accusing her of bad luck, saying she's cursed, that she brought death to Thomas. His words are a blade meant to cut her resolve. Lila's jaw tightens. She tells him to leave, her voice steady, her eyes locked on his. Kael chuckles, but it's hollow. He doesn't like defiance. That night, under a moonless sky, Kael makes his move. The outlaws circle the cabin, silent as shadows. Lila wakes to the smell of smoke, her heart pounding. She grabs the knife, the rifle, but it's too late. Flames leap up the walls, devouring the wood. The cabin groans, beams cracking like thunder. Lila runs for the door, but hands seize her, rough and strong. She fights, slashing with the knife, catching one man's arm. Blood sprays, and he curses, but they're too many. Kael stands back, watching, his face lit by the fire's glow. He doesn't strike her. He doesn't need to. "Run," he says, "or burn." They shove her toward the trees, laughing as she stumbles. The cold will finish her, Kael thinks. It's cleaner than blood. Lila runs, her coat tearing on branches, her boots sinking in snow. She clutches the stolen knife, its handle slick with sweat. Her leg burns where a splinter grazed her, blood soaking her skirt. The forest is endless, dark, a labyrinth with no path. Her breath comes in gasps, each one sharper, colder. She trips, falls, crawls, rises again. The fire's light fades behind her, but so does her strength. Snow clings to her hair, her hands, her soul. She's lost, wounded, alone. The world feels like it's closing in, ready to swallow her whole. Miles away, another story moves through the snow. Taka, a warrior of the Crow tribe, rides a black horse named Sokso. He's a scout, a tracker, the kind who sees stories in bent grass and broken twigs. Taka's face is strong, his cheekbones high, his long hair tied with a leather cord. A scar runs across his jaw, a reminder of a fight he barely survived. His buffalo hide cloak keeps the cold at bay, and his bow rests easy across his back, arrows fletched with hawk feathers. Taka's eyes are dark, sharp, but they carry a weight. Years ago, a raid tore his world apart. His sister, Awi, was taken, killed before he could reach her. He was 16, too young to stop it, but old enough to carry the guilt. It's a wound that never heals, a shadow that follows him. Taka's tribe, the Crow, are people of the plains. They ride horses like they were born to it, their movements fluid, their bond with the animals deep. They track bison across valleys, reading the land's pulse. The Crow live by balance, believing every river, every stone, every life is woven into the Creator's plan. To harm one is to harm all. Taka holds this close, even now, when he's chosen to walk alone. He left his camp after Awi's death, not out of anger, but to find a purpose his heart could bear. He tracks thieves, helps travelers, keeps the balance in his own way. It's not about glory. It's about honoring what's right. Now, Taka hunts a band of outlaws, the same ones Kael leads. They stole horses from the Crow, fine animals bred for speed and heart. The theft is more than loss. It's a slap to the tribe's pride. Taka's been on their trail for days, following hoof prints, campfire ashes, careless tracks in the snow. His horse moves steady, sensing his focus. The forest is quiet, but Taka feels a shift, a pull he can't name. Then he sees it, smoke, faint, rising from a ridge. Not a campfire, something bigger. He turns Sokso toward it, his pulse quickening. The smoke leads to a ruin. Lila's cabin lies in pieces, its walls blackened, its roof collapsed. Embers glow like dying stars. Taka dismounts, his boots soft on the snow. He kneels, his fingers brushing the ground. Shattered glass sparkles in the ash. A torn scarf, half buried, smells of cedar. Blood, frozen in patches, tells a story of violence. Taka's eyes narrow. He finds footprints, small, uneven, leading into the trees. A woman's, he guesses, from the size. She ran, fast, scared, but determined. Nearby, horse tracks mix with boot prints, heavier, careless. Kael's men, maybe. The trails tangle, but Taka sees the truth. Someone was attacked, driven out. Someone still alive. He stands, scanning the forest. The snow falls thicker, erasing edges, softening sounds. The footprints won't last long. Taka hesitates, just a moment. He's after the outlaws, not a stranger's fight. But the Crow way runs deep. A life is a thread in the Creator's weave, and to ignore it is to tear the whole. He mounts Sokso, his jaw set. The horse snorts, ready. Taka follows the prince, slow at first, then faster. The forest closes around him, pines looming, branches snapping in the wind. The trail twists, dips, climbs. He sees where she fell, where she dragged herself up. Blood speckles the snow, less now, but enough to worry. She's hurt, weakening. Night creeps closer, the sky turning bruised purple. The air bites at Taka's face, but he doesn't slow. The prints grow fresher, more desperate. A broken branch, a scuff in the snow. She's close, or was. The wind carries a sound, faint, like a sob or a whisper. Taka reins in, listening. Nothing now, just the creak of trees. He dismounts, moving on foot, his bow in hand. The snow is deep here, past his knees. He finds a hollow by a frozen river, a place where the wind cuts less. And there, curled against a rock, is a figure, small, still. Lila's coat blends with the snow, her face pale, her lips cracked. The knife lies loose in her hand, her fingers too cold to grip it. Her breath is shallow, a faint cloud in the air. Taka kneels, his shadow falling over her. She's a settler, that's clear, but her fight speaks louder than her blood. The broken arrow in her coat, the blood on her hands, they tell him she didn't go easy. He touches her wrist, feels a pulse, weak but there. His choice is made before he thinks it. He builds a fire, quick and low, using dry moss and flint. The flames catch, pushing back the dark. Lila stirs, her eyes fluttering, but she doesn't wake. Not yet. The forest watches, silent, vast. Two lives, one running from fire, one chasing justice, are about to collide. Lila, broken but unbroken, clings to a spark of hope. Kael, riding away, thinks he's won, the snow his ally. Taka, guided by tracks and heart, steps into a story he didn't choose. What happens when the lost meet the searching? When a woman with nothing left finds a man who carries too much? The cold presses close, but the fire burns brighter. Their paths cross here, in the heart of winter, and the world will never be the same. The camera pulls back, showing the endless snow, the faint glow of Taka's fire. Flute notes rise, sharp and clear, weaving through soft drumbeats that pulse like a heartbeat. We see Lila's hand twitch, Taka's steady gaze, the river's ice catching starlight. The tension coils tight, drawing us deeper, promising a story of fight, of heart, of truths waiting to unfold. The forest is a cathedral of ice and shadow, its silence broken only by the crunch of snow under Taka's boots. Night has fallen, cold and unforgiving, wrapping the world in a blanket of stars and frost. By a frozen river, where the water lies still beneath a glassy sheen, a small fire flickers, its warmth a fragile rebellion against the winter's bite. Taka kneels beside it, his hands steady, his breath visible in the air. Before him lies Lila Harper, a stranger he's only just found, her body curled against a jagged rock like a leaf caught in a storm. Her coat is torn, soaked with snow, the broken shaft of an arrow jutting from its folds. Blood stains her hands, her leg, her story written in the wounds she carries. She's a settler, that much is clear, but the fight in her speaks louder than her origins. Taka's dark eyes trace her face, pale as moonlight, her lips cracked, her breath so faint it barely stirs the air. He hesitates, just for a moment. Trust is a dangerous thing out here, where settlers and Crow walk different paths, their histories tangled in mistrust. Taka's seen what happens when worlds collide, the blood it leaves behind. His sister's face flashes in his mind, her smile lost to a raid years ago. He pushes the memory down, but it lingers, a weight on his heart. Lila stirs, a faint groan escaping her lips. Her eyes flutter unfocused, and she whispers, "Don't leave me." The words are weak, raw, but they hit Taka like a stone. He's a Crow warrior, sworn to his people, chasing outlaws who stole their horses. This woman isn't his fight. Yet the Crow way runs deeper than duty. Every life matters, every thread holds the weave together. He can't walk away. Taka moves quickly, his hand sure despite the cold. He feeds the fire, coaxing it higher with dry twigs and moss. The flames grow, casting shadows that dance across the river's ice. From his pack he pulls a small pouch, its leather worn smooth. Inside is willow bark, ground fine, a remedy his mother taught him. He chews a piece, mixing it with water from his flask, then presses the paste gently to the gash on Lila's leg. She flinches, her body tensing, but doesn't wake. Taka works in silence, wrapping her wound with a strip of cloth torn from his own shirt. The broken arrow in her coat tells a story of struggle, of defiance. She fought back hard. He respects that, even if he doesn't know her name. The fire crackles, spitting sparks into the night. Lila's eyes open, sudden and wild, like a deer caught in a trap. She scrambles back, her hands clawing at the snow, reaching for the knife that slipped from her grip. Her breath comes fast, her voice hoarse. "Who are you? What do you want?" Fear sharpens her words, but there's steel beneath it. Taka doesn't move, his hands open, his gaze steady. He sees her panic, her pain, but he keeps his voice low, calm. Someone who didn't walk away. And the answer hangs between them, simple but heavy. Lila stares, her chest heaving, her fingers closing around the knife. She doesn't trust him, not yet. Why should she? The world's taught her trust is a luxury she can't afford. Taka stays still, letting her measure him. He's tall, broad-shouldered, his buffalo hide cloak dusted with snow. His long hair is tied back, a single bead glinting in the firelight. The scar on his jaw catches her eye, a story she can't read. He doesn't smile, doesn't soften his words. He just watches, waiting. Lila's grip on the knife loosens just a fraction. She's too weak to fight, too cold to run. The fire's warmth pulls at her, a lifeline she can't ignore. "Why help me?" she asks, her voice quieter now, edged with suspicion. Taka tilts his head, considering. "You were breathing," he says. It's not the answer she expects, but it's the truth. For now it's enough. Morning breaks, pale and sharp, the sun barely piercing the clouds. The river glitters, its ice catching the light. Lila sits closer to the fire, her hands wrapped around a tin cup of melted snow. Her leg throbs, but the bleeding stopped thanks to Taka's care. She's still wary, her eyes flicking to him every few seconds. He's packing his gear, checking his horse. Soxo, who stands patient nearby. Lila clears her throat, breaking the silence. "My name's Lila Harper," she says, testing the ground between them. Taka nods, not looking up. "Taka," he replies, short and final. She waits for more, but nothing comes. He's not one for words, she realizes, and that unsettles her. She's used to men who talk too much, their promises empty. Taka's silence feels different, like a wall she can't climb. Lila shifts, wincing as pain shoots through her leg. She needs to move, to act, to find the man who burned her world. "My cousin, Kael," she says, her voice hardening. "He took everything, burned my cabin, chased me out. He's got men, outlaws. They'll kill me if they find me." The words spill fast, raw, like a wound reopened. Taka pauses, his hands still on the saddle. He turns, his eyes meeting hers, searching. "Kael," he repeats, the name heavy on his tongue. "He's the one I'm after. His men stole horses from my people. Crow horses." Lila blinks, caught off guard. The same enemy, the same fight. It's a thread tying them together, fragile, but real. Taka kneels by the fire, adding a log. The flames flare, warming the air. "We stop him," he says, not a question, but a fact. Lila nods, her jaw tight. "I want him to pay." Her anger burns hot, brighter than the fire. Taka shakes his head, just slightly. "Anger's a bad guide, gets you killed." Lila bristles, her hands clenching. "What else do I have?" she snaps. Taka doesn't answer right away. He pulls a small stick from the snow, hands it to her. "Break it," he says. She does, easily, the wood snapping in two. He gathers a bundle of sticks, offers them. "Now these." She tries, but they hold firm. "One alone breaks," he says. Together they stand. Lila stares at the bundle, her anger cooling just a little. His calm, his certainty, it pulls at her, even if she fights it. They move on, traveling slow through the forest. Lila's too weak to walk far, so Taka helps her onto Sokso, his hands careful but strong. She tenses at his touch, still unsure, but he steps back, giving her space. The horse moves steady, its warmth easing her chills. Taka walks beside, his bow ready, his eyes scanning the trees. The snow is deep, the air sharp, but the world feels alive now, not just cruel. Taka stops at a clearing, pointing to tracks in the snow, faint and scattered. "Deer," he says. "See how they curve? Means water's near." Lila squints, seeing nothing but marks. "How do you know?" she asks. He taps his ear, his foot. "The land speaks if you listen." She scoffs, half smiling. "Sounds like poetry." But she watches closer, curious despite herself. At camp that night, Taka shows her how to spark a fire without flint. He rubs sticks together, his hands patient, until smoke curls up. Lila tries, her fingers clumsy, her frustration growing. The sticks slip and she curses, tossing them down. Taka picks them up, hands them back. "Again," he says, not mocking, not judging. She glares but tries, and after what feels like forever, a spark catches. Her eyes widen, a small victory warming her more than the flame. Taka nods, the faintest curve to his lips. "Good," he says. It's the first praise she's heard in months, and it lands deeper than she expects. But trust is a slow build, and Lila's heart is scarred. She wakes before dawn, the fire low, Taka asleep across the coals. His horse stands tethered, its saddle within reach. Lila's anger flares, urging her to act, to find Kael alone. She creeps to the horse, her hands shaking as she unties the reins. Sokso snorts, loud in the quiet, and Taka's voice cuts through. Running alone kills faster than any blade. He's awake, standing, his eyes calm but piercing. Lila freezes, caught, her cheeks burning. She expects anger, a fight, but Taka just steps closer, taking the reins gently. Kael's not one man. He's got others. You need a plan, not a grave. His words sting, true and unyielding. Lila's shoulders slump. She nods, reluctant, and follows him back to the fire. Days pass, their journey a rhythm of snow and silence. Taka leads them toward a crow camp, a place he says will offer shelter, strength. Lila resists, her voice sharp. "They won't want me. I'm an outsider." She's heard stories, settlers' tales of tribes who turn away strangers. Taka stops, turning to her. Crow don't judge by blood. They judge by heart. She wants to argue, but his certainty quiets her. He speaks of his people, their ways. Every life is a thread in the Creator's weave, he says, his voice low, like a prayer. Break one, and the whole weakens. Lila listens, the words sinking in. He's not saving her for pity, she realizes. He's saving her because it's right, because her life matters in a way she's forgotten. The forest grows denser, the air colder. They're farther from Kael's trail now, but closer to something new. Lila's strength returns, her step surer, her hand steadier. She learns to spot tracks, to hear the land's whispers. Taka watches, saying little, but his nods speak volumes. Their alliance is uneasy, built on shared enemies, not friendship. Lila still glances at the horizon, her anger a coal that won't die. Taka sees it, warns her with a look. "Hate makes you blind," he says one night, the fire painting his face in gold. Lila doesn't answer, but the words stay with her, heavy as truth. A wolf howls in the distance, its cry sharp, urgent. The forest holds its breath, watching two souls navigate a fragile bond. Lila, fueled by loss, learns to survive, not just live. Taka, carrying ghosts, finds purpose in her fight. They're strangers still, but their paths are woven now, leading toward a camp, a clash, a chance to change everything. The snow falls soft, the fire burns low, and the stakes rise higher with every step. The camera lingers on Lila's hands, trembling as they hold a sparked flame. It cuts to Taka's gaze, steady through the trees, then pans to the vast forest, silent but alive. Flute notes weave through drumbeats, slow and tense, pulling us deeper into their world, their fight, their unfolding story. The sun hangs low, painting the snow with streaks of gold and shadow. Lila and Taka move through a narrow valley, the forest thinning around them, pines giving way to open ground. The air is sharp, biting at their faces, but the silence feels heavier than the cold. They're closer to the crow camp now, maybe a day's travel, maybe less. Lila walks beside Sokso, Taka's horse, her steps stronger than before, though her leg still aches under its bandage. She grips the stolen knife at her belt, her eyes scanning the horizon. Taka leads, his bow slung across his back, his boots leaving soft prints in the snow. He's quieter today, his gaze distant, like he's listening to something beyond the wind. Lila notices but says nothing. She's learning his silences, how they carry meaning as much as words. The valley feels exposed, its slopes gentle but bare, offering little cover. Lila's unease grows, a prickle at the back of her neck. She glances at Taka, wondering if he feels it too. His hand rests on his tomahawk, casual but ready, his eyes flicking to the ridge above. The world holds its breath, and then it shatters. A shout splits the air, harsh and sudden, followed by the crack of a gun. Snow erupts near Lila's feet, stinging her legs. She dives behind a rock, heart pounding, as Taka spins, his tomahawk already drawn. Two men burst from the trees, Kael's outlaws, their coats ragged, their faces twisted with purpose. One holds a pistol, smoke curling from its barrel, the other a rusty blade, glinting as he charges. Taka moves like water, swift and sure. He ducks a wild swing from the swordsman, his tomahawk flashing, catching the man's arm with a sickening crunch. The outlaw screams, dropping his blade, but the gunman fires again, the bullet whistling past Taka's shoulder. Lila scrambles to her feet, her knife in hand, her fear drowned by a surge of instinct. She sees the gunman aim at Taka, his finger tightening on the trigger. Without thinking, she lunges, slashing at his wrist. The pistol falls, skidding across the snow, and the man roars, swinging a fist. Lila stumbles, pain blooming in her cheek, but she holds her ground, driving her knife into his thigh. He collapses, clutching the wound, his curses fading into gasps. Taka finishes the first man with a swift strike, then turns, his eyes meeting Lila's. For a heartbeat they lock, her breath ragged, his face unreadable, but sharp with something new. Respect, maybe, or surprise. The fight is over as fast as it began, the valley quiet again, save for the groans of the wounded. Blood stains the snow, bright against the white, and Lila's hands shake as she wipes her knife clean. She's fought before, back at the cabin, but this feels different, raw, like she's crossed a line she can't uncross. Taka kneels by the gunman, checking his wounds, his expression grim. The man's face is pale, his breath shallow, but his eyes burn with defiance. "You're dead," he spits, his voice weak. "Kael's coming for you, for all of you." Taka leans closer, his voice low, steady. "What's Kael planning?" The man laughs, a wet, broken sound, but pain loosens his tongue. "He's got settlers riled up," he says, coughing. "Says the crow stole their stock, burned their homes. They're marching on your camp, warrior. Gonna wipe it clean, take the land for good." Lila freezes, the words sinking like stones. Taka's jaw tightens, but he doesn't flinch. He presses a hand to the man's wound, not gentle, not cruel. "When?" he asks. The man's eyes flutter, his voice fading. "Soon. Dawn, maybe." He slumps, unconscious, his words hanging heavy in the air. Taka stands, his tomahawk still in hand, blood dripping from its edge. Lila watches him, her heart racing. The Crow camp, full of families, children, is in danger, and Kael's lies are the spark. She steps closer, her voice urgent. "You have to go. Warn them." Taka shakes his head, slow, deliberate. "You're not strong enough to travel alone." His words are calm, but there's a crack in them, a shadow of something deeper. Lila frowns, confused. "I'll hide," she says, pointing to the trees. "I've done it before." But Taka's eyes darken, and for the first time she sees pain there, raw and unguarded. He turns away, staring at the ridge, his hands clenching. Lila steps closer, her voice softer. "Why stay? Your people need you." Taka's silence stretches, long and heavy, until he speaks, his voice low, like it's pulled from deep inside. "I had a sister, Awi. She was 12. A raid came, settlers, not like you, men with no honor. I tried to save her, but I was too slow. They took her, killed her." He pauses, his breath uneven. "I swore I'd never leave someone behind again." Lila's throat tightens, the weight of his words settling on her. She sees it now, the guilt he carries, the wound that shapes him. It's why he found her, why he won't leave, even when his people are at risk. She reaches out, hesitating, then lets her hand fall. "I'm not her," she says, gentle but firm. "You don't owe me." Taka turns, his eyes meeting hers, steady again. "It's not about owing, it's about choosing." The words land like a vow, and Lila feels something shift inside her, a crack in the wall she's built around her heart. She's trusted no one since Thomas, but Taka's truth, his pain, mirrors her own. Her distrust softens, not gone, but quieter, like a fire banked low. The valley grows colder as the sun dips below the ridge, shadows stretching long and thin. Taka binds the outlaws, leaving them tied to a tree, alive but helpless. He checks Soxo, then kneels by Lila, examining her cheek where the fist landed. She pulls away, stubborn, but he insists, his touch light, careful. "You fought well," he says. No praise, just fact. Lila's lips twitch, almost a smile. "Didn't have a choice." But she feels it, a spark of pride, small but real. Taka stands, his gaze sweeping the valley. "We need to move," he says. "The camp's not far, but Kael's closer than I thought." Lila nods, her mind racing. She wants to help, to warn the Crow, but her body's weak, her strength fraying. "We split up," she says, the idea sudden, desperate. "You ride fast, I'll follow slow." Taka shakes his head again, sharper this time. "A fire alone burns out," he says, his voice firm. "Together it grows." The words are a Crow teaching, she knows, one he's shared before, but now they feel like a lifeline, binding them. Lila wants to argue, to say she's a burden, but his certainty stops her. She's not used to being needed, not like this. It scares her, but it also steadies her, like ground under her feet. They camp that night in a shallow cave, its walls rough, its mouth hidden by pines. Taka builds a fire, smaller now, to avoid eyes. Lila sits close, her coat wrapped tight, the bruise on her cheek throbbing. Taka pulls a small pouch from his pack, its leather stitched with beads. He sprinkles tobacco into the flames, the smoke curling upward, sweet and sharp. Lila watches, curious. "What's that for?" she asks. Taka's eyes stay on the fire, his voice soft. "Guidance. The spirits don't choose who's worthy. They choose who's willing." The words settle deep, stirring something in Lila she can't name. She's never believed in spirits, not like this, but Taka's faith, his quiet strength, makes her want to listen, to see the world through his eyes. He speaks again, his voice barely above the fire's crackle. All we loved the stars, she'd say they were stories, waiting to be told. Lila leans forward, drawn in. "What's your story, then?" she asks, half expecting silence. Taka's lips curve, not quite a smile. "Still finding it," he says. Lila nods, understanding more than she says. Her own story, her cabin, her loss, feels like a book half written, its pages torn. But here, with Taka, with the fire, she feels a new chapter starting, one she didn't expect. The cave is warm, the world outside cold and waiting. Taka's wound, a graze on his arm, bleeds slow, a reminder of the fight. Lila notices, tearing a strip from her scarf to bind it. He lets her, his eyes steady, grateful. They're a team now, not just strangers, but the path ahead is dark. Kael's plan looms, a storm gathering strength. The crow camp is close, but so is danger, and every choice feels like a gamble. Lila's fear whispers she's not enough, that she'll slow Taka down. Taka's guilt murmurs of awi, of chances lost. Yet they sit together, the fire burning bright, their shadows mingling on the cave wall. A soft chant rises, Taka's voice blending with the wind, a crow prayer for strength, for clarity. Lila listens, her heart open, her doubts quieter. The forest watches, its silence a promise, a threat. Two souls, scarred but unbroken, face a choice that will shape them, their people, their world. The flames flicker, the stars burn above, and the story presses forward, urgent, alive, pulling us deeper into its heart. The camera catches the fire's glow, Lila's bruised face, Taka's steady hands. It pans to the cave's mouth where snow falls soft, relentless. Chanting weaves through drumbeats, low and haunting, carrying us into the night, into the tension, into the truth waiting to unfold. The forest opens to a wide plain, its snow sparkling under a sky heavy with the promise of dawn. Lila and Taka ride hard, Soxo's hooves kicking up clouds of frost, their breaths mingling in the cold. The crow camp lies ahead, nestled in a valley cradled by cliffs, its tents glowing faintly with firelight. Lila's heart races, not just from the ride, but from the weight of what's coming. Her leg aches, her jaw throbs, but she feels alive, sharp like a blade honed by fire. Taka's face is set, his eyes scanning the horizon, the graze on his arm a dull sting he ignores. They've beaten the clock, but barely, and Kael's shadow looms closer than ever. The camp is their hope, their stronghold, but it's also a target, fragile in the face of lies and guns. They descend into the valley, the air thick with the smell of wood smoke and leather. The crow camp hums with quiet life, tents stitched with patterns of stars and horses, their poles sturdy against the wind. Men sharpen arrows, women tend fires, children dart between shadows, their laughter soft but defiant. Heads turn as Lila and Taka approach, eyes curious, wary, measuring. A woman steps forward, young, her braids long, her face strong with high cheekbones and a gaze that cuts like flint. She wears a beaded shawl, her boots silent on the snow. This is Mina, a Cheyenne allied with the Crow, a healer and tracker who rides with them for kinship, not blood. Her voice is steady, but her eyes linger on Lila, sharp with doubt. "Taka," she says, nodding to him, then glancing at Lila. "Who's this?" Taka dismounts, his hand gentle on Soxo's flank. "Lila Harper," he says, simple, sure. "She's with me." Mina's brow lifts, her skepticism clear, but she trusts Taka, always has. Lila slides off the horse, her legs unsteady, but her chin high. She feels the weight of Mina's stare, the camp's quiet judgment. She's an outsider, a settler, her coat torn, her face bruised. But she meets Mina's eyes, refusing to shrink. Taka speaks, his voice low, urgent, telling Mina of Kael's plan, the settlers massing, the attack set for dawn. Mina's face hardens, her hand tightening on the knife at her belt. "Scouts saw them," she confirms. 10 men, maybe more, camped beyond the ridge. They're close, too close. The camp stirs, warriors gathering, their voices a murmur of strategy and resolve. Lila listens, her stomach twisting. She's no stranger to danger now, but this is bigger, a clash that could burn everything. Taka pulls Mina aside, their words quick, sharp, mapping the land in their minds. Lila watches, feeling small, out of place, yet burning to act. Mina points to a narrow valley nearby, its cliffs steep, its mouth hidden by pines. "There," she says, "we draw them in, use the high ground." Taka nods, his eyes tracing the plan like a hunter tracking game. They'll lure Kael's men into the valley, where the crows' bows and horses can turn the tide. It's a trap, clever, deadly, but it needs bait, someone to pull Kael close. Lila steps forward, her voice cutting through their talk. "I'll do it," she says, her words firm, surprising even herself. "I'll stand in the valley, call him out." Taka's head snaps up, his eyes fierce. "No," he says, sharp, final. "Too dangerous." Lila holds his gaze, her heart pounding but steady. "I'm done running," she says, each word a stone laid down. "Kael knows me. He'll come for me." Mina watches, her doubt softening to curiosity, maybe respect. Taka's jaw tightens, his hands clenching, the memory of Awi flashing in his mind, the sister he couldn't save. He wants to argue, to shield Lila, but her fire stops him. She's not asking permission. She's choosing, just as he chose her by the river. He nods, slow, reluctant, but proud. The camp moves fast, warriors slipping into the dark, their bows ready, their horses silent. Mina leads Lila to a tent, handing her a bow, its wood smooth, its string taut. "Taka taught you?" she asks, a half-smile breaking her guard. Lila nods, gripping the bow, its weight familiar from nights by the fire, Taka's patient lessons. "Enough," she says, and Mina's smile widens, a spark of trust. They plan through the night, voices low, the camp alive with purpose. Lila feels it, the pulse of something bigger, a people fighting not just for land, but for their way, their heart. She's part of it now. Not Crow, not Cheyenne, but bound by will, by fight. Dawn breaks, cold and clear, the sky a pale flame above the cliffs. Lila stands alone in the narrow valley, her coat flapping in the wind, her bow hidden beneath it. The snow crunches under her boots, her breath steady despite the fear gnawing at her chest. She's exposed, a lone figure against the white, her voice ready to call death closer. Taka watches from the cliffs, hidden among the crow, his bow drawn, his heart torn between trust and dread. Mina crouches nearby, her eyes sharp, her knife gleaming. The warriors wait, silent, their arrows a promise of justice. Lila cups her hands, her voice ringing out, raw and fierce. "Kael, come face me!" The words echo, bouncing off the cliffs, a challenge no coward can ignore. Silence follows, heavy, endless, then hoofbeats, fast and hard. Kael rides into the valley, his men behind him, 10 strong, their guns glinting, their faces smug. Kael's coat is stained, his smile cruel as he spots Lila. "Still alive?" he calls, his voice dripping with mock surprise. "Thought the snow'd finish you." Lila stands tall, her hands steady, her eyes locked on his. "Takes more than you," she says, loud, defiant. Kael laughs, his men fanning out, their boots trampling the snow. "You're alone now, cousin," he says, drawing his pistol. "No one's coming." He's wrong. The cliffs erupt, arrows whistling like hawks, swift and true. Crow warriors strike, their bows singing, their horses charging from the pines. Taka's arrow finds its mark, dropping a man before he can fire. Mina moves like a shadow, her knife flashing, cutting reins, sowing chaos. Kael's men panic, their guns roaring, but the valley traps them, its walls channeling their fear. Lila pulls her bow, her hands sure, loosing an arrow that grazes Kael's arm. He curses, his pistol swinging toward her, but she dives, rolling in the snow, knocking another arrow. The fight is a storm, snow flying, blood spilling, cries blending with the wind. Taka leaps from the cliff, landing light, his tomahawk a blur. He fights to Lila's side, their movements synced, a dance of trust and fire. Lila's arrows fly, one catching Kael's shoulder, pinning him to his horse. He screams, his smugness gone, his men falling around him. The Crow overwhelm, their strategy tight, their will unbreakable. Kael kicks his horse, trying to flee, but Taka's faster, his horse cutting Kael off, his tomahawk raised. Lila expects death, wants it even, but Taka hesitates, his eyes fierce but clear. He strikes Kael's horse, sending it down, then binds Kael's hands, tight with rawhide. "You face our justice," Taka says, his voice cold, final. Kael spits, but he's broken, his power gone, his lies laid bare. The valley quiets, the fight done, the snow settling red and white. Lila stands, bow in hand, her chest heaving, her body trembling but strong. Taka looks at her, his eyes warm with pride, no words needed. Mina joins them, her shawl streaked with dirt, her smile wide. "You're no outsider," she says to Lila, a hand on her shoulder, a bond forged in fight. The Crow gather, tending wounds, freeing horses, their faces lit with victory, not vengeance. Lila feels it, the camp's pulse, its life, and she's part of it, not by blood, but by heart. Taka kneels by a fallen warrior, his hand gentle, his head bowed. Lila watches, seeing the weight lift, the guilt he's carried, since always softening, not gone, but shared. He's honored his sister, not by saving Lila alone, but by saving this, all of them, the weave unbroken. Lila's own heart shifts, her anger at Kael fading, replaced by something new, a strength that bends, not breaks. Mina sits by the fire later, the camp alive with quiet celebration. She looks at Lila, at Taka, and speaks, her voice soft, clear. The heart that bends like a willow survives the storm. The Cheyenne proverb lands deep, a truth Lila feels in her bones. She's not the woman who fled her cabin, not the widow bound by loss. She's a survivor, reshaped, resilient. Taka, too, has found a path, healing through compassion, not blood. The camp breathes, its tents glowing under the rising sun, its people strong, unbroken. Lila stands tall, her bow a part of her now, her scars a map of growth. Taka's eyes meet hers, a silent vow, not of staying, but of carrying this moment forever. Kael's lies are dust, his men scattered or bound, the Crow's truth shining brighter than his greed. The valley holds its story, a clash of wills, a triumph of heart, and the world feels wider, alive with possibility. The camera sweeps over the valley, arrows scattered, horses galloping, Lila's bow steady in her grip. It lingers on Taka's face, proud, peaceful, then Mina's smile, warm, knowing. Flute music rises, bright and full, blending with war cries that fade to laughter, to life. The sun climbs, the snow glitters, and the story surges, its heart revealed, its fire burning fierce and true. The valley lies quiet now, its snow churned and stained, but the sun climbs higher, casting a golden glow that softens the scars of battle. The crow camp hums with life, its tents sturdy against the morning breeze, their patterns of stars and horses catching the light. Fires crackle, sending up curls of smoke, while voices weave together, low and warm, a tapestry of relief and resolve. Warriors mend their bows, women stitch torn hides, children chase each other, their laughter bright against the memory of danger. Lila stands at the camp's edge, her bow resting against a tent, her coat still torn but her shoulders square. She's tired, bruised, her cheeks swollen from the fight, but her eyes shine with something new, a strength that feels like home. Taka moves among the crow, his steps light, his buffalo hide cloak dusted with frost. He checks horses, shares nods with warriors, but his gaze keeps finding Lila, a silent thread tying them still. The fight is over, Kael bound and guarded, his men scattered or surrendered, their lives undone by truth and arrows. The crow have won not just the valley, but their right to stand, to breathe, to be. Lila feels it, the pulse of this place, its heart beating in the laughter, the fires, the stories swapped over cups of broth. She's not Crow, not Cheyenne, but she's no outsider now, not after standing in that valley, bow in hand, fighting for their lives. Mina walks beside her, her shawl bright with beads, her smile easy now, no trace of yesterday's doubt. "You held your own," Mina says, her voice warm, a hand brushing Lila's arm. Lila nods, a half-smile breaking through. "Had to," she says, and Mina laughs, a sound that feels like family. The elders call a circle, their faces lined with years and wisdom, their eyes sharp but kind. They sit by a central fire, its flames dancing, casting shadows on the snow. Taka speaks first, his voice steady, telling of Kael's plan, the settlers' anger, the lies that nearly burned them all. He speaks of Lila, not as a settler, but as a woman who chose to fight, to stand, to weave her thread into theirs. The elders listen, their hands folded, their silence deep with thought. Lila stands before them, her heart pounding, her hands clasped to keep them still. She's never faced judgment like this, not from a people so different, yet so familiar in their strength. "I lost my home," she says, her voice clear, though it trembles at the edges. "But I found something here. If you'll have me, I want to stay, to learn, to teach others what I've seen, so no one else comes with guns and lies." The elders murmur, their eyes meeting, weighing her words. A woman with gray braids, her face like carved oak, speaks, her voice soft but firm. "You fought for us, not for gain, but for right. That's enough." Another elder, his hands scarred from years of crafting bows, nods. "You're a bridge," he says, "between worlds that clash too often. Stay, build with us." Lila's breath catches, relief flooding her, warm as the fire. She bows her head, a gesture of thanks, of belonging. The camp feels lighter now, like a weight lifted, and Lila realizes she's not just staying, she's choosing, crafting a life from ashes, not rebuilding the old one. Taka watches from the fire's edge, his face calm, but his eyes hold a flicker of pride, of peace. He's seen her change, from the woman half dead by the river to this. A warrior in her own right, her heart bending like a willow, strong because it yields. Lila crosses to him, the snow crunching under her boots, her breath visible in the morning chill. She stops close, her eyes searching his, words forming slow, deliberate. "You didn't just save my life," she says, her voice low, steady. "You showed me how to live it." Taka's lips curve, a rare smile, small but real, lighting his face in a way she hasn't seen. He doesn't speak, doesn't need to. The moment holds them, a quiet vow, a bridge built of trust and fight. The camp prepares for the day, but Taka's work here feels done, his path pulling him elsewhere. He checks Sokso, his hands gentle on the horse's flank, his pack heavier with gifts from the crow, dried meat, a new arrow fletched with hawk feathers. Mina finds him, her shawl wrapped tight, her eyes bright with knowing. She holds out a feather, its edges soft, dyed red with Cheyenne patterns, a symbol of honor, of heart. "Your sister sees you now," she says, her voice soft. "Sure, you carried her all this time, and she's proud." Taka takes the feather, his fingers brushing it, his throat tight. He ties it to his hair, a quiet act, a weight lifting. "I'll come back," he says, meeting Mina's eyes, then Lila's, a promise not just to them, but to himself. Mina nods, her smile warm, and steps back, giving him space to go. Lila walks with Taka to the camp's edge, where the plain stretches wide, its snow unbroken, its horizon glowing with dawn. Sokso snorts, ready, but Taka lingers, his eyes on Lila, memorizing her face, her strength. She pulls a small pouch from her coat, leather worn, filled with tobacco, a gift he'd given her nights ago by the fire. "For the road," she says, pressing it into his hand, her fingers brushing his, warm despite the cold. Taka nods, his smile faint but deep, and mounts his horse, his cloak settling around him like wings. He looks back once, their eyes locking, a moment that holds everything, loss, fight, hope. Then he rides, Sokso's hooves soft on the snow, his figure shrinking against the rising sun, a lone shadow moving toward the unknown. Lila climbs a low hill, the camp alive below, its fires glowing, its voices a chorus of life. She stands alone, the wind tugging her scarf, her hair loose now, catching the light. The pouch is gone, but its meaning stays, a thread tying her to Taka, to this place, to herself. She opens her hand, letting the wind carry a pinch of tobacco, its scent sweet, fleeting. "For the threads that hold us," she whispers, her voice soft, a prayer not to spirits, but to the world, to the bonds that endure. The tobacco drifts, scattering across the snow, a small act, but hers, chosen, true. The camp thrives, its tents a promise of tomorrow, its people a family Lila never expected. She'll stay, learn their songs, their tracks, their stories, and share them with settlers, building bridges where walls once stood. Her old life, the cabin, Thomas, it's a memory now, not a chain. She's not the woman who fled, not the widow defined by loss. She's Lila, a name that means more than it did, a heart reshaped by fire, by fight, by connection. Taka rides on, his path his own, but the feather in his hair, the peace in his heart, speaks of Awi, of Lila, of a guilt softened by purpose. They're apart, but not alone, their stories woven into the same weave, strong because they bent, not broke. In a land torn by fear, two souls found strength in each other. The crow taught them, no one walks alone, and every step leaves a story. Lila stands tall, her eyes on the horizon, her heart full, not with longing, but with promise. The camp sings below, its laughter rising, its fires burning bright. Taka's shadow fades, but his light remains, a spark carried forward, a story told in hoofprints, in stars, in the wind that never stills. The camera lingers on Lila's face, her smile small but sure, her eyes reflecting the dawn. It pans to the camp, children running, elders nodding, fires glowing warm. Then it follows Taka, a lone rider against the plains, the feather bright in his hair, the sun climbing higher. Gentle flute notes weave through drumbeats, soft, uplifting, fading slow, leaving a quiet that feels alive, complete, a closure woven from heart and hope. The sun rises over the plains, its light stretching long and warm, painting the snow with hope. Lila and Taka's story lingers, a tale of fight, of heart, of finding strength in unexpected places.